everyone. Today is actually International Democracy Day. Can you believe it? Now, democracy should bring peaceful existence among citizens in any country and in the world. However, I believe that very few people can say that they have peace within themselves or that they have peace with other human beings. I want to thank you for joining us for this first session of our four-part series of our Meeting of Minds. This is a build-up in recognition of the United Nations International Day of Peace. And the International Day of Peace was established in 1981 by the United Nations General Assembly. And then in 2001, the day was designated as a period of non-violence and ceasefire. And this day is observed around the world on the 21st of September each and every year. The theme for this year's International Day of Peace is Shaping Peace Together. And the 21st is devoted to strengthening the ideals. The 21st of September is devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace through observing 24 hours of nonviolence and ceasefire. As I indicated, we will be having 4 Meeting of Minds sessions. So today's session focuses on women in communities. Our second session, the 17th, will focus on youth, while our third one will take place on Monday, the 21st, which is the actual day of peace. And that one will be focusing on women in uniformed services. The last one, the role of academia, will take place on the 23rd of September. Now for today, it is a privilege and honor for me to introduce our first speaker, which is the speaker for today's session. As I said, we only have one speaker per session. Mary, my dear sister and a community builder who gave up the fast and comfortable city life and moved to the rural areas to serve other women, to serve the youth as well as children. She is the founder of Lungelo Youth Development in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Here in South Africa, those who do not know, KwaZulu-Natal is one of the provinces that have a lot of rural areas, but I'm sure she will tell us more about that. I must say, sis, I stand in awe of your courage and commitment to develop others and help them to get a better life. Can you share with us what made you do this? And what is it that continues to motivate you to continue doing what you do?
Thank you, ladies. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all from all corners of the world. Greetings. So what really motivated me to start this was it took a simple visit. You know, you grow up in a big city with big city life, fast-paced life, and you tend to be a bit ignorant or not even aware of what goes on around you in other parts of the same country that you live in. So it took a holiday. You know, I came to visit in Richards Bay and I saw what I saw. And I thought, you know what, I think I have got the ability in me to start something. So I did a bit of research and I found that there is a resource center where young people, especially women, can tap into for assistance, for guidance, for a comfortable space, a safe space where you can go and speak with somebody who will listen to you and direct you in the right place where you need to go to get assistance. But also, it was also just to say to people, we are a resource center. We're a space for you where you can be given an opportunity to speak your mind freely in a safe space and tap into what is within you. You know, the song by Mariah Carey saying there's a hero that lies in you. And a lot of us don't even realize, especially rural women, don't even realize that they've got it in them because we always live in the shadow of somebody. That's what motivated me to start. What motivates me to keep going is in the 8 years that I have started this organization and that I have been here, I have watched women blossom. You know, when you see a rose that is closed and slowly it starts opening up. And I've watched them blossom and turn into some women are like really beautiful, but because they walk around as if they're carrying the whole world on their shoulders, nobody is telling them how beautiful they are. Nobody is talking on their strengths and their abilities. Everybody talks down on them, or they think they always have to live in the shadow of a man. Now that they realize that actually I am me on my own, then you start seeing them blossom. And that says to me, I am on the right track. I'm onto something here. And then what keeps me going to work with these women.
All right, so to the rest of our participants, please do make comments on the chat box, but also we will be giving you all an opportunity to contribute and to share your views in a moment. Now, having heard that, Mary, can you then, going closer to the question of peace, what does 24 hours of nonviolence mean, or what does it entail for the women you work with on a daily basis? I mean, what are the issues that they're grappling with every day of their life? Actually, I want to ask you, is the ideal of 24 hours of nonviolence, or maybe I should say directly, is the ideal of 24 hours of peace something that is achievable for them?
24 hours of peace would mean being with yourself, not with anybody else, away from all the other noises around them. And when I say noises, you know, being a mother, we have seen now with lockdown, when there's no food at home, a man can actually just go and sit somewhere in a corner, and you are the mother, the children are looking at you and say, Mommy, we've got nothing to eat. So being away from all of that and saying, I have got the peace. I've got nobody but me to listen to my own voice, to hear myself and reason with myself and say, I can actually get out of this. So I think it is ideal. I also think that it is an opportunity for people. So if we take this 24 hours of peace, it's an opportunity for people and say, if I can do it in 24 hours, I can actually do it beyond 24 hours. I looked at, so you asked a question about the issues that the rural women are grappling with. You know, most of the rural women are used for various issues in the community, mainly cultural and religious sometimes, where, you know, a family that is poor, they see marrying a woman away as an opportunity for them to be rich or for them to get out of the situation they're in. Now, this young woman, a lot of them drop out of school, therefore, it means they don't even have education to try and fall back on. A lot of them go work out in the field. So you work in the field, you have to come back, you have to cook, you have to look after children. So you give up your being a woman and become everybody else's tool. So it's like for anything that needs to happen, the nearest person or the nearest thing to be used, it's a woman. Let us look at human trafficking. It's mainly women that are being trafficked. Look at sex workers. Yes, we do have male sex workers, but it's mainly women. And don't think that in the rural areas we don't have. I actually say some cultural practices promote trafficking women, promotes pushing women into sex work without actually realizing, because being married off to a man that you don't even know, that you don't love, that you did not choose for yourself, for me, it constitutes human trafficking. For me, it constitutes saying, go and have sex with that woman, so with that man. So you're being pushed to get into a relationship that makes you a sex worker. Other issues that they grapple with, these young women, most of them are young women, when they get married, or even if they don't get married, they have a relationship and they have a child out of wedlock. So they become teen mothers. They lost out on an opportunity of being a teen, already becoming a mother. They don't even have the parenting skills. So they struggle with bringing up this child with absent partners, and we call these women single mothers. So the partner is absent, they're either not interested in assisting, or they are physically there, but that you don't get any kind of support, not even emotional support. So these are the issues that these women struggle with. Where we come in, we say to these women, you have dropped out of school. It does not take away the fact that you're a woman. It does not take away the fact that you still have got the strength in you. It does not take away the fact that you can still be a mother and become something else. It's not a lot of mothers that dump their children somewhere. So these women in the rural villages, some of them have their husbands saying, I'm going to look for a job in a big city. And that's the last they see of them. Because when they get to big cities, they get swallowed in, or they don't even get a job and they're too embarrassed to come back home. And these women are left with the burden of seeing to the households, of seeing sometimes even to the extended families. So really, rural women are exposed in such a bad way. And just to add, I always look at the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at goal number 5, it talks about equality, gender equality. If you look at goal number 16, it talks about peace and justice. And whose peace and justice are we talking about? Does the SDGs actually take into effect women, or are we being excluded? This talks about everything else. If you look at we have got in rural areas, we've got what we call, I think they're called traditional courts. It's mainly men that sit in those traditional courts. I'm yet to see one that has got a woman, and maybe there are somewhere, but I'm yet to see one in the areas that I work in that has got a woman. Yet those men sit there and make decisions about us. They make decisions for us. And I can tell you, for instance, when I started the organization and I was looking for a piece of land to build the youth center, because my husband is in Joburg and I'm here in the rural area, I could not even speak to the chief directly. I had to find a man who would speak for me. And when you go to these traditional courts, a woman does not even sit on a chair. I have to sit on the floor. Men are sitting on the chair and they're all making these decisions. I mean, I can hear them speak, and here I am. I would like to answer, but I can't. I have to whisper to this man to tell them my answer. So, those are some of the frustrations that rural women are struggling with. As a woman alone with an absent partner, a woman cannot get a piece of land to build a comfortable home for their family, because tradition says we do not give a woman a piece of land, we give it to a man. Sure. And it's easy for these men to help these women register, get a piece of land, and then kick the woman out. And yet the woman has done all the work to change this piece of land to make it into a warm, comfortable home for the family. I don't know if I answered your questions, Doctor.
Yeah, no, so actually from what you're saying, it also seems like some of the women, even if they could try and say maybe get a piece of land built for their children, they might end up wanting to get married, because now, at least when I'm married, I will have someone who can, who will get that recognition, not that because I wanted to be married. And I'm also wondering, while you talk about the courts that they have in the villages, to what extent would women who come and complain about issues such as domestic violence, issues such as gender-based violence, to what extent would they get the justice that they deserve if the whole court is men, advisors are all men? I'm just wondering.
It is always, what did you do as a woman for this man to do this? you inflicted this on yourself. You must have done something that pushed this man to do what he did to you. So what this man would do in that case, 9 times out of 10, they try and organize some women, other women in the village, to mentor you, to guide you, to teach you how to be a proper wife to this man. They don't even look at what transpired, what led to that. I mean, one of the cases we dealt with not so long ago, and we actually had to take it to the courts. I stood up and I said, do what you want. And I was nearly banished from the from the village, because now I stand up and talk to these people. But this woman was being punished, was beaten every night because she's not able to bear children.
Sure.
And with time, we found that this man is actually the one that cannot get children, because after she left him, after a big court battle, she left this guy, and now she's met somebody else, and she's got 2 beautiful children from this other guy. And this man, the ex-husband, does not even have 1 child anyway. So it eventually it was discovered that he's actually the one that cannot bear children.
Sure.
But because she's a woman, it is her fault. So not much justice do women in rural areas get from these traditional courts. Yeah.
All right, let's open up and hear from other ladies. Anyone who wants to comment, ask questions, or share maybe similar experiences in your country. Anybody?
Thank you, Mary. I'm Fauzia from Bangladesh. I think what you have said, very similar situation in Bangladesh too. Are you? I mean,
yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. So in Bangladesh also we have village court, as you said. We called it village court, Gram Adalat. Gram is village and Adalat is court. So there is, Gram Adalats, villages in every villages. But the situation is almost the same, what you have shared. Only one thing I can share, that the women are sitting by the man nowadays, not, as you say, not on the floor. But the problem is, like, this institution, as you said, almost all the institutions are very patriarchal, and they listen to man and not to women. So we are facing lots of problem, like, these cases are not going, in a solution for women. So my just queries is, after your interventions, what you have achieved, or see that whether some of the positive things are coming up. And as you have a resource center, I'm very much interested to know how you were actually working in the rural areas and what kind of services you were giving to them. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Fauzia. So a lot of what we do, what we have seen made broad change, is these women, especially younger women, what we did, we started a daycare center. So we allow these women to go back to school and say to them, you cannot allow yourself to be pushed into marriage simply because you've got a child with somebody, or think your life is over because now you have got a child. And they will tell you that I don't have money to go pay for an expensive kindergarten. So we started a daycare center where we care for the child, and we enrolled these women back in school. Then we've got voluntary university students, or even international volunteers that come here, well, before COVID. And after school, when these women come back from school, we run programs with them. So we do teen parenting, we give them parenting skills, but we also assist them with school work, so that by the time they go home, and we provide meals. So by the time they go home, their school work is done. They have had a meal to eat with the child. And then when they go home, they don't have to worry about doing schoolwork and caring for the child and caring for the home. Then they attend to their home environment situation or issues that they have to attend to, because now schoolwork is done. And that's what we have seen. And I've seen where we've taken a woman of 23 years old, who has got 3 children, who went back to school. And she passed, and this year she's actually doing her 2nd year in law at university. Wow. We have got some of these women, our interventions, some of these women say, I cannot go back to school, I have to care for my children. And we say, okay, what skills can we assist you so that you can learn a skill? We've got women now with 2019, with COVID-19, they're making masks because we taught them sewing skills. So they make masks and sew those masks and sell them to generate income to sustain their families. Yeah, so those are some of the interventions. Some of them, they've never thought that one day in their lives, they'll find themselves driving a car. We have partnered with a driving school that gives these ladies an opportunity to attend driving lessons. They give them a certain number of driving lessons, all voluntary because of the relationship that we have with them. And some of these women, it's little things like, they come out and say, I would like to speak about my story. And we have them enrolled, we give them an opportunity to speak on the radio or even the newspaper. Actually, today, some of them are in today's newspaper. And they're very proud to say, you know what, I've actually spoken about my story and it inspires somebody else out there. So those are some of the interventions that we do. I don't know if I answered you, Fazia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, must be very inspiring. And actually, I have also a small resource center. So that's why I'm very much interested to learn from you as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So part of what we do as women, increasing the networks, I'm now actually addressing Fauzia and Mary. Part of what we do as women, increasing the networks and so on is, to establish that link, like now if you say, Fauzia, you have got also a small resource, Mary has a resource. I'm sure there's a lot that you can share between the two of you, So if you want, we will share the contacts as well. Then you can contact each other outside of this session if you'd like to do so.
Okay. Yes,
right. Is there any other comments?
Working in Cox's Bazar with Rohingya, but I have some some experience. I mean, I have done a report back in 3-4 years back. So I found one of the major problem they are facing, like the language, because I mean there is a language barrier. That is one of the problem that women cannot talk directly sometimes with the local communities. And the young women, young women are facing lots of problems, especially because of this religion, quote unquote, this Islam, and they actually don't. I mean, they're not going to schools, and so far, early marriage is another challenge for them. And also there are majis, they call, maybe you have heard about, Jane, I don't know, Maji is the leader, community leader, and these majis are playing a critical role. Sometimes they are sending sending women abroad, trafficking, they are involved with the trafficking. So these are some of the problem I think we need to address when we are there. And I know, of course, you are handling those with police. So that, some of the issues that we need to highlight in our trainings, that trafficking is one of the major problem nowadays there. Yeah,
and I think what, certainly for me, the experience of being up in Cox's Bazar and understanding that, this huge influx of not just the refugees, but the international experts and donors that are there to support them. And it can actually create this conflict between the host community and the refugees. But the people that are suffering in either of those two communities are the women and the girls. And I know some of the aid agencies have been pushing to give support to the host communities as well, because, you know, when we're talking about preventing conflict, the Rohingya refugee crisis up there isn't a new thing. The large influx was the new thing in 2017, but they have been going to Bangladesh for a number of years. But if all the host communities, and it is a poor region of Bangladesh, if the host communities see all this money coming in, all these international aid agencies coming in to support those migrants over there, those refugees over there, what about us? Then you start to get a conflict. And it's an irony that the aid agencies that are up there, you know, all of the UN agencies are represented there, could themselves be part of the problem if they don't address this gradual conflict and resentment that's building up between the Rohingyas and the host community.
Just quickly mention one thing, that there's a program that we're doing, and I always question, and I know that I'm implementing that program. It's called Adolescent Girls and Young Women. It's internationally funded, and the funding is sourced by the government. And the purpose of this program that we do, called Adolescent Girls and Young Women, is really just to assist the young women, because they are identified as the drivers of the new HIV infections. And I'm saying, yeah, it's fine. You know, we have to mentor these young women. We have to educate them. We have to ensure that they stay in school and they stay HIV free, you know, give them all those skills and do sessions with them. However, I still would want to know who identified that they are the drivers of the new HIV infections, because they don't go infecting themselves. You know, they are infected by these older men that they're in relationships with. And it's not easy for a young woman to say to an older man, please let us use protection, you know, because these men have got money. These men bully them. These men are the ones that have been around and actually are the ones that are infected, and they bring the virus, of course, unless if the young woman was born with the virus. But other than that, very few of these young women get involved in these relationships for material things, for support, because, you know, at home there's no food or anything. And now this young girl is pushed to be in that relationship. The man has been around, and yet these young women are seen as drivers of the HIV new infections. I just wanted to mention that. So always I ask this question, and I say to, when we're sitting with in these big meetings with the powers that be, and I say to them, it would be interesting to see who makes those decisions, from the funders internationally to the big powers in this country that says, it's okay, Mr. Funder, you can send that money for this project to mentor the young women. Thank you.
Yeah, I think having listened to Jane and the ladies also explaining what's happening in Bangladesh, as well as what you have shared with us, Mary, I'm just thinking now, the objective of this year's International Day of Peace is to strengthen the ideals of peace for women. Now, I was thinking, and it links up with the question the last question that Mary asked. Shouldn't we then begin to define peace? What would peace mean? Obviously, it would mean, I think it would mean different things for different women. But with the women that you guys are working with, what would it mean to say we're strengthening the ideals of peace for women? First, we need to understand, what does peace mean for those women? And then we will know, what are we strengthening? What is this ideal that we want to help them to work towards? If Mary talks about a person that goes to school, comes back, picks up the child, goes home, how would that person define peace? Would it be like silence, because it's silent in the house now, I'm alone, it's silent in the house? Is that my peace? Or would my peace be the ability to be free from violence, to be free from harassment. What exactly is this ideal that we want to achieve? Anybody?
Can I go? So for me, the peace for that woman would be to say, I know that I've got what I need to make my life a bit comfortable. Because you know, when you're stressed, when you're uncomfortable, when you've got other people that dependent on you, and yet you don't even have the means to provide, you don't have peace. You really don't have peace, and hence these women end up finding themselves in relationships they don't want to be in, or even in environments that they don't want to be in, you know, simply because they're trying to make a life a little comfortable for their loved ones. And in that way you don't have peace, because you go to sleep at night, but actually your mind is active trying to think what next to the next day. So I think once they are comfortable and know that, you know, I've got everything that I'm supposed to have, then they will have peace. And I know that I mentioned SDG number 16, and one of the targets or the objectives of SDG number 16 talks about, for us to have peace, we have to be free of bribery and corruption and all, you know, and this is where the issues come in. From our own governments, we don't have peace because they are busy with the bribery and the corruption. And that deprives me, especially as a woman, of the peace that I need. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to hear a perspective from so we've got UK represented here, US, Australia, because like Leah, like you've said, peace can mean completely different things depending on your context and your environment.
But if I think about Australia and what peace means, I guess that what comes to mind is environmental peace in the sense that safety, because we've had really bad bushfires at the start of the year, which we see California having now. So I guess that's just a really visible signal about safety, because we had those really big orange skies that were really scary, and even though it covered different parts of Australia at different times, it was really scary. And I guess that from that, I think peace, you know, I would go into climate change and what the environment, the importance of the environment for peace, and the changing environment, and the instability that can lead to, and the impacts are different for different countries. And then I guess the second point for peace, I think that it would be around, and I'm not sure whether it's a reflection of other divisive things, but there can be this, you know, pushback against women fighting for gender equality. And I know that's happening in some places. I'm not sure whether it's in every country, but as Australia, I think, was, you know, doing quite well in terms of gender equality, but you know, the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years, I've just really noticed, and others have commented on it as well, that yeah, it can lead to backlash from men feeling like they're losing their position. So I think that on one hand, when women are trying to achieve equality to what we hope would lead to more peace, that it's in some cases having a bit of an opposite reaction. But I'm not sure, yeah, as I said, whether that's just the gender thing, but we can see from politics globally, there is also that polarization. So maybe then if we think what are the factors leading to that, is it social media and the way that things, information and things are manipulated so that people, you know, have sort of led to liking something or hating something. Maybe gender equality is suffering under that too. So just with Jane putting me on the spot, I'm thinking about peace in those terms, the big terms in terms of our physical environment. Yeah, but then in terms of our you know, rights and safety as women.
No, definitely. All right. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Is it Summer?
It is Summer. Hello. I'm conscious that I don't have much. I'm only 25. I feel like whatever I say is not going to be anywhere near as worldly wise as what the rest of you have got to say. But it's just, this has been a really interesting discussion. So thank you so much for having me. I live in the UK, and at the moment, I think obviously we're incredibly lucky. As a woman, your rights are legally enshrined and have been in lots of areas of gender equality since the 1970s in particular. So we are mostly protected in like divorce courts, etc., etc., etc. Recent areas of focus have probably been around the Me Too movement and around harassment. So following the sort of Harvey Weinstein scandal, etc., and then just the kind of, I guess, everyone becoming more aware of how sexual harassment has become enshrined in our culture. So we're trying to stop that being the case and to stop normalizing it at you know, at both ends of the spectrum. But also it was so legally all fine in terms of sexual equality and freedom from sexual assault. Work is being done there that's really good. It's become an incredibly, I guess what always happens with social movements is that like capitalism takes a hold of them and then makes them mainstream and then ends up kind of watering them down a bit. So I guess feminism came from a socialist ideal, but now even David Cameron a few years ago was wearing a "This is what a feminist" t-shirt looks like, and all shops like Topshop, etc., which don't pay their female garment workers equal wage end up selling t-shirts that say, you know, female equality. So there's loads of kind of hypocrisy, etc. But the fact that the feminist movement has become mainstream has meant that generally I think gender equality is becoming more accepted at a cultural level. The one thing I did want to pick up on though was something which Mary put so articulately, was around women kind of being free from certain things but also free to do certain things, and just around responsibility. And it's something I've noticed particularly more at my parents' age, that women seem to define their happiness with recourse to everyone else around them rather than what they want to do themselves. So it's like, if my daughter's happy, I'm happy. If my husband's happy, I'm happy. If my friends are okay, then I'm okay. Whereas like my dad or my brothers will just be like charging ahead in their careers or something. And they seem to, I don't know, and it's something I do as well. I'm like, oh, I'm only okay if my like boyfriend's okay, but if he's down, then I'm down. I don't know. It seems to be like culturally we're far more affected by other people because we seem to consider ourselves to be responsible for other people's happiness because we're like a tool and a fixer, exactly as you said, Mary, to different extents. Obviously, whilst also all of this is going on, there's also the kind of like the way class and race intersect in the UK, which means that as a white middle class woman, I'm incredibly privileged and don't bear the brunt of lots of oppression in the country that I'm not even aware of. But slowly but surely, the feminist movement is trying to become more intersectional. So I think we're all upskilling there and learning more and the Black Lives Matter movement has been, has, I guess, intersected really well with the feminist movement here. And so particularly the expression of marginalised women is coming to the forefront. So that's really good and exciting. So yeah, hopefully that spiel was interesting.
That's very interesting, you know.
Lisa, can I just come in again with a
yes,
UK perspective? Thank
by
you.
all means, yes.
So I just been making some notes following on from what Summer said. If I can just give a bit more of a UK perspective. So what COVID has done in the UK is it's really highlighted to me the inequalities in the UK. So whilst we're quite lucky in that we haven't got any sort of civil war and we haven't got any fighting that's going on. We're quite a peaceful country in that way. We aren't, all of our communities haven't got the same levels of peace. So, for example, if you're a refugee, if you're an asylum seeker, particularly if you're a member of the trans community, you are particularly disadvantaged in the UK. When we had the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a big backlash where everybody was, well, not everybody, but some people were saying, no, all lives matter. Well, all lives matter unless you're a refugee, an asylum seeker, or a member of the trans community. There's a lot of, backlash, disagreement, resentment in the community, and there isn't a lot of peace in that way in the community, and there's quite a lot of hostility and tension at the moment, and of course we've got Brexit as well looming, so all of that is going on, all that discourse, and it's really interesting that all of this is bubbling away, and it doesn't feel like a very peaceful place to live at the moment. The COVID rate is starting to rise again. Certain areas are going back into lockdown, and I think that as the weeks and months go on, more and more areas are going to go into lockdown, and those tensions are going to start to rise again.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and that's true. To look at what's happening within the community. So yeah, as we go on defining the ideal of peace for maybe not only just women, but for us as citizens. All right, can we hear now from my own president of the International Association of Women Police? I wasn't gonna let you not speak to us on the topic of this ideal of peace for women. Madam Deb.
So a very interesting conversation this morning, very early here. So thank you for your indulgence without the camera. So I can't help but think about peace here in the United States. And so two things come to mind to follow on what Lisa just said about COVID and the impacts, the greater impacts on women than on men in terms of the family responsibilities with the schools closed here. I think that many folks have lost their jobs, and it seems that it's a greater number of women than men that seem to have lost jobs. But the family responsibilities with schools closed, with no daycare available for quite some time, again, it was the burden of that childcare responsibility fell to the women. So many of the news stories suggest that it'll take quite some time for women to recover in the workforce from what they've lost during this time period. So that's one piece. The other thing that's really impacting the United States is the political climate and the political unrest and the intense divide within the communities over just, I'm sure you've all seen a flavor of it in the news, but it's pretty intense. There's a strong division that is sort of an undercurrent of everything. And of course, it's all factored into the conversations around COVID as well for us. So in the coming weeks and months, we'll see what happens with our election, but I'm sure it'll take some time for the dust to settle even once the election occurs. And But that's just a real, there's real nastiness and in some cases violence associated with this this political climate or the protests and such. So there's all of that. And then you know, as was already mentioned, you look at parts of the country, whether it's the South dealing with the hurricanes or the West Coast dealing with the raging fires and such. So you've got sort of there's a lot that folks are dealing with right now, and those are some of the immediate thoughts that come to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So as we draw to a close, I see time really flies. Having had the different perspectives and the different discussions, it does look like 2020, also with the COVID, we've always had issues, but now with the COVID-19, this 24 hours of peace, most people might not have it, all right? However, I want to give everyone an opportunity to say, you know, just for that 24 hours, if you were controlling the world, what would you say to women? What is it that women can do just for the 24 hours to get a little bit of peace this year on the 21st of September 2020, amidst everything that is going on? I would like to ask everybody else, and then once we've all given our inputs, very short, please, then I will ask Mary to give us her closing remarks. Fauzia?
No, thank you. I was just listening, very interesting conversation. I was just thinking, when we talk about peace, I mean, it also differs from person to person, isn't it? Like, you know, in my community, those women who are very poor, very marginalized, so they are actually struggling for food. So, I mean, food is for them peace, may not be for me. So that is why it is difficult to, you know, to say something that, I mean, 24 hours peace, but most, I mean, the marginalized women are empty stomach. So, I mean, they will tell us that, I mean, if you could provide us food, that will be the peace for me and for my family.
Definitely.
So, I mean, that is very much, I mean, I feel like that.
Yeah, thanks, Fauzia. Melissa?
Thank you, Leah. To have peace, I would recommend that everyone gets a cat.
Okay.
A
little bit.
Well, because I usually travel quite a lot for my work, but now with COVID, I'm locked down, and I was asked if I could look after 2 cats. And because I live alone and I normally work from home, you know, when I'm not traveling, the affection of the cats has been very welcome. And
Wow.
you know, and I think that they're good company and give you lots of love. So if you can't find love with another human, then I recommend that people try with a cat, unless you're a dog lover.
Thank you. Anyone else? Summer?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for organising this. And I guess it's not exactly a peaceful activity, but I just think like freedom to think and explore things together, collaboratively, and freedom to organise is just probably of paramount importance on the road to peace. So I'm just really grateful for this today. So thank you.
Okay. Millie?
Thank you. Just I want to say this is a vast thing, and if you have a family in your family, and if you in your peace mind, you can do anything for everybody. So This is.
Absolutely. Ellie, you can go on.
Yeah, thanks, Leah, and good morning and afternoon to everybody. I'd like to sort of put a slightly different sort of perspective in terms of what does peace mean. I live in Kenya. I do lots of work with young people, but also work with the police. And we've seen that during the period of COVID, lots of violations, extreme violence being carried out by the police. And at one point we had more young people killed by the police than through COVID. So my perspective on peace is I really want mothers and fathers to be peaceful in their mind, that whilst their sons and daughters are out on the streets in Nairobi, that they are safe. They are safe from those who are actually charged with protecting them. So a slightly different perspective, but one I was keen to share. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to say something? Okay, Fauzia?
No, I was just wanted to add, like, you know, when we're talking about 24 hours peace, maybe we really want a violence-free family. I mean, like, you know, where everyone will be safe and enjoy their life.
True. No, thank you. All right, let's go back then to our speaker for today, Mary. Your closing remarks.
Thank you, Leah. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm not sure why from the beginning, what gave men an idea that they are superior to everybody else. And now with everything going on in the world, they seem to be threatened by women. That's why there's always new policies, or they become violent towards women, or in a workplace they will do everything possible to try and marginalize women. You know, something must have happened for them to feel threatened, and as a result make themselves, you know, self-appointed seniors over women. And it would be nice for us to go back and see where did that come from. And maybe if we address that, then that will deal with most of the issues that emanate from what women are going through. I also want to mention that, you know, when COVID humbled the whole world, and this is echoing on what Deborah said earlier on, when COVID humbled all of us and changed, you know, put a whole twist in how the world operates, the lawmakers, the decision makers, did not take into cognizance the rural people. You know, a rural woman that has to go fetch water, carry water on her head, and go fetch wood to come cook for her family, suddenly is told to be indoors. She's not supposed to go anywhere. How is she supposed to provide for all of that? All of a sudden, we are told that we cannot, you know, we have to have masks, we have to put on masks. People struggle to even put food on the table, and yet now they have to have extra masks or stay home or anything like that. So it is okay. I understand that governments were thinking about protecting us and trying to fight the virus, but they did not think about anything beyond people in the big cities or people that have. They didn't think about the have-nots. That's just what I wanted to mention. One last comment from me is say women should not be afraid to look inside and see what they have and what they possess and the strength and the abilities that they possess. They have to stand up and be strong and say, here I am, deal with me. Thank you very much, ladies. It's a pleasure talking to you all. Thanks for your time and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
All right. Okay, no, thank you very much, Mary. We really enjoyed your perspectives of things and you sharing your experiences with those women. Personally, I want to, on behalf of Gender Agenda International, to salute you and many other women who are out there like you, who are serving, selflessly serving other women. I really pray that you will grow from strength to strength. Now, I would like to conclude with these words from the voice of peace of all times. I'm sure you all know, I would be surprised if I concluded a session on peace without talking about the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Mother Teresa herself. And she said, and I quote, "Let us not use bombs and guns to overcome the world. Let us use love and compassion. Peace begins with a smile." And then she said, smile 5 times a day at someone you don't really want to smile at all. Do it for peace. So let us radiate peace and extinguish in the world and in the hearts of all men all hatred and love for power. I close quote. So I think while we are all saying that peace means different things to different people, another thing from my side that I think we can do is to begin with that smile, you know, as our own Mother Teresa has said. So that brings us to the end of today's